Welcome everyone, Costin here with a discussion about Ultimate General American Revolution, and in this particular video I want to talk about melee combat and about fort battles, because there have been some changes made to them. And specifically with regards to the defender's capability, according to the patch notes, to be able to hold back a tide of men in this kind of situation. So let me explain how things would work before, as I try and succeed over here. I'm not sure if I'll be able to. Now, this is based on a save that I had in my campaign, which I played before this patch. Now, what would happen before this particular patch is you would take either a militia company, like the one I have over here, and just gonna slow it down a bit. You would take either a militia company or a unit of Fusiliers under the Continental Army, and you would just smash against the defenders of the fort. The way to overcome the defenders was, and the way to overcome the redcoats in melee was to throw multiple units at them. Now, does that still work? Yes and no. So what the developers have stated in their patch notes is the following, that blobbing up in melee is going to be less effective than before. So taking multiple units of infantry and sending them into melee is just not going to work anymore. I am curious to see how this is. Now, if I wanted to win this, the key to success would be for me to take positions in the fort and take positions around the fort, because they cannot defend every angle of it. They just don't have enough men. Even if they had twice the numbers, they would not be able to succeed over here. And just take some units, try and smash them against the redcoats over here. Some units are going to be militia, some units are going to be continental troops, and just see how that plays out. I do want to point out that what I'm doing here would have worked in the previous patch. It would have been doable. But will it work right now? I'm really curious to see if that's going to be the case. So my militia have collapsed, which is not necessarily surprising. My militia have collapsed at this particular stage of the battle. My Continentals here are going to move to deal with artillery, and I'm going to move more militia over there. Are they going to succeed over there, or are they going to fail and take a significant number of casualties? By the looks of things, yeah, they have pretty much failed at this particular point. So my frontal assault no longer works. Now, this creates certain issues that you will have to deal with in your campaign, because you won't just be able to take a massive unit, throw them at the enemy in pure melee and win. And yeah, especially if they're going to be exhausted, that is going to be a problem. Now, I'm curious if my two Continentals here, though keep in mind, because I've been marching them so far, they are pretty tired. So let's see how this plays out. Yeah, it does seem that just a direct melee assault on a unit behind cover in a fort is just no longer really a workable strategy in the same way. You're probably gonna have to do some other things in a different way. Okay, so that clearly has failed. Now, part of the reason that this has failed, of course, is like I exhausted my troops. I got them really tired before even charging them in melee. It would have worked before. Like, I would have won that with ease, maybe taken some casualties, but I would have won. In fact, I did win this particular battle in this campaign. So let me just restart and see what I can do. But there's two things at play. For the units that launched a full frontal assault, there's the fact that they have changed. They have made it so that units behind cover in melee in a fort will defend properly. So launching a full frontal assault against a unit in this position should be very difficult, unless you bring artillery to help out with things. Now, you have enough time in the American campaign to be able to get enough units, in order to be able to get artillery specifically by the point you have to deal with these kind of battles. And I think artillery is going to start becoming more important, because I gotta say, artillery in the base game is kind of pointless. Just gotta say. Like, the only value artillery has, of course, they can do some damage, but, like, I think in this kind of siege, like, I'm just gonna flank over here, deal with their artillery. I do need to go through this choke point, so if I eliminate their units of artillery and just let them rest and just fight for a section of the fort, one at a time, though keep in mind the units that are here. Well, one of the things to be mentioned that's happening here is the fact that the units you see there, the British regulars, are actually firing at my units here. They're trying to engage in melee. Because, yeah, they're firing behind them. Imagine if that was the case in, say, a Total War game. Okay, so I lost that unit. That is obviously not ideal. Still not great. Okay, the artillery has been routed. And what do we do now? Well, there's a couple of options, but I'm not sure how well they're going to work either. Now, I'm going to keep trying this battle until I do succeed. Maybe I just need to bring my units up over there. I mean, keep in mind, I have enough units that I should be able to prevail here, and I am not, unfortunately. That's a problem. That is something of a problem, because you have these units shooting backward. You also have the artillery over here in the fort. How to do it? I mean, obviously I could bring my general help out to morale. Let's try that. More ammo. Like, I've taken significant casualties over here, which makes sense. Like, if I had tried many of the siege tactics I've used in my campaign so far in something like Civil War, I don't know how to say it. I would have gotten my ass handed to me. But let's try something else. Let's try taking a defensive position. Nope, still, yeah, by that point, the damage has been done. So even a full flanking attack, bypassing their front line, not engaging their front line, didn't work without my general. Try again. Now, honestly, at this point, like, if I have to fight the prolonged ranged engagement, that's obviously not going to be an ideal scenario for me. Okay. So I'm going to get all my units, get Benedict Arnold to move over there. Do a flanking attack. Like, I keep thinking in my head when I'm dealing with these fort battles, I keep thinking of Fredericksburg in Civil War. Because in the battle of Fredericksburg, and other battles as well, but in Fredericksburg, maybe I need to use those similar kind of tactics that I did there. I'll explain how you do it. It isn't gonna be pretty, that's for damn certain. But or Hardin's Pike, or Nashville, I think it is. But I'm thinking like a Confederate campaign where you've got a lot of units in strong defensive positions, incredibly strong defensive positions. And I keep thinking to myself, okay, how do you overcome those defensive positions there? Well, there are ways. I may have to use some of those tactics. So let's just combine these units. And we want to deal with artillery. Like, the fact that I can just march on and deal with artillery is actually important. So try and combine these units. Oh, they're just routing. Okay, fair enough. I mean, I am getting bombarded by artillery. Okay, so send Benedict Arnold over there to deal with the situation. Still doesn't work. Damn. I mean, they are exhausted, so... What options do I have? Not many. I mean, if my guys get exhausted before they even arrive... Let's try this. Multiple attack waves. That was the key in Civil War. Yeah, we got some problems. No, it doesn't work because my guys fire at each other. Friendly fire is too generous. Alright, so the artillery should break right now. Don't tell me they won't, because that's gonna be a bit ridiculous. Okay, so we dealt with that. Let's position these guys to take them out. Well, I guess having more artillery in your campaign is actually going to be important, because like the cannons are actually doing damage there. And having supplies for those artillery, having ammunition, getting wagons, is going to change the campaign dynamic completely. Oh, and we win. Okay. I guess if you captured the flag, we win. Took massive losses, all the same, but yeah. Though this is not ideal, one of the things that I am noticing with the patch... So, direct melee attack against a unit in fortified position is a surefire way of getting your guys killed with the patch changes. That's because multiple units blobbing up on enemy units won't work so well, won't be quite as effective, and once you account for cover, it also won't be quite as effective. I do feel the combination of these two changes at the same time is a bit of a problem. Another thing I want to point out, however, at this juncture is, yes, the British are fucking ridiculous in their balance situation. The sheer strength of British regulars is absurd, and I do need to mention this. Historically speaking, let me go over this. Historically speaking, yes, the militias, and yes, the Continentals they lose. But you think of Ticonderoga, right? Basically, this is the Ticonderoga campaign. This is north of Ticonderoga, but the Americans did not struggle necessarily with forts. Though, to be fair, Ticonderoga was defended by, like, what, 30 men or something along those lines. The fact that there's, like, 1,000 men in something like Ticonderoga is a bit ridiculous in the campaign. So, just introducing that melee change without consideration for, like, the overall campaign situation. They're trying to fix two things, though. They're trying to fix the melee blobbing, because that is a problem, and it is absolutely a problem. Like, you take 5-10 units. If you did that in Civil War, you probably were going to get your guys killed. They're also trying to fix the focus on melee as opposed to range, and they're also trying to make it so fortified positions are actually worth it, which they were in Civil War. But as long as, but with the balance between the Continentals and the British regulars, yeah, it's really not a great, it's not a great situation, honestly. I think when we're gonna get the British campaign, my fear is that the British campaign is just gonna be a lot of curb stomping the fuck out of the Continentals. And the only concern we might have in that campaign is just avoiding a war with France for as long as possible, so you can, and also loyalty. But actually, in the individual battles, you'll probably win vastly outnumbered, because that's just it. Like, the problem is if you nerf melee blobbing, but individual one-on-one melee stays the same, because it has. That really just benefits the British, because the way you would play is like you just blob up with 2-3 units. You can still do so; it still will work, just not as effective before. But it wasn't a great dynamic. But like without the kind of without the melee change in general, and without this ridiculous nonsense that a British regular unit will just charge straight up into infantry, that's not great. They haven't changed necessarily that dynamic. Like I want to point this out. If in Civil War you charge directly with one of your units against an enemy unit you're probably gonna get killed. Suffice it. It didn't matter, like, it could be a tier 3 infantry unit with all the upgrades, best guns against a crap crap tier 1 unit. And dependent on the defenses, of course, there were other things. You could overcome it, but you, regardless of whether or not you overcame the enemy behind a strong defensive position, assuming equal strength, let's just say equal numbers, not necessarily equal guns, stats, or anything like imagine tier 1 unit versus tier 3 unit in Civil War. The tier 1 unit is behind cover, like we can have over here, right? The tier 1 unit is behind cover. The tier 3 unit is in the open. If you were to charge the unit behind cover, they might be thrown out because you just have much better morale on higher ranked units. You might force them back, but what would also happen is you would take ridiculous casualties on your tier 3 unit. And suffice to say, an experienced veteran unit like that is not a cheap-ass resource that you can just throw away like that. What you would do, more likely, is you would throw multiple units at that line, achieve fire superiority. There's other problems as well, like the friendly fire bullshit needs to stop. Like, I'm getting so irritated by, like, just my own units killing each other and routing each other as well because of friendly fire. That is so irritating. I never had really that kind of issue in Civil War, I have to say, or Gettysburg. Can't really speak too much about Age of Sail, but I don't think it was too much of a problem in Age of Sail. Though Age of Sail was not really melee-centric, it was range-centric. Like, yes, you had melee in Age of Sail, and you could use it, and it would be good. But like most of the battles I fought in the campaign, I would focus on using range to win battles. Here, you have to focus on using melee, and it's not a great dynamic. So, some things need to be changed. I do think fortresses should be difficult to take, from the perspective not like, oh, fortress should be this magical, mystical realm that, oh, they're difficult. No, but walls should provide cover, and you shouldn't just be able to charge a unit and melee directly behind a unit and cover. You should have to bring artillery, you should have to flank things, do all that. Here I just literally won because I took the victory point and broke their morale. And I didn't suffer quite as badly as I imagined, but still not a great situation considering I outnumbered them by quite a bit. But I think this is a decent enough ratio for a fortress like this, requiring this kind of level of army strength and taking these casualties. I think this is reasonable enough. I just think like melee and range in general need rebalancing, as opposed to like, oh, we just want to prevent 5 units in melee from stacking on top of each other and immediately routing someone. I don't think that was necessarily a problem in isolation, because if you tried to do shit like that in Civil War, melee would win, but the problem is like a volley would potentially inflict ridiculous casualties. Anyway, Costin here, signing out. Stay tuned for more.